What if I told you the noise in your head isn't really your fault? That constant, low-grade hum of anxiety, the mental chatter that just won't quit, the aches and pains you've learned to live with. What if it's all just a program? And what if you could overwrite that program? Not with a pill, not with years of therapy, but with your own breath, in just 5 minutes a day. There are stories, legends really, about a breathing technique supposedly held as a secret by Tibetan monks for millennia. The legend says it could generate an inner fire, letting them sit in the snow, totally unaffected. But the real secret wasn't about surviving the cold. It was about mastering the mind and body from the inside out. Now, a modern version of this, a simple protocol they call 555, is making the rounds. And modern science is just starting to catch up to its almost unbelievable claims: the power to silence mental chatter, ease chronic pain, and create noticeable changes in your mental state in just 48 hours. Some people are even making this wild claim that it can boost a miracle growth protein in the brain by 300%. So, I decided to put it to the test. I committed to this 5-minute ritual, twice a day, for 7 straight days. And what happened was not what I was expecting. Before I walk you through my 7-day journey, you need to understand the sheer weight of what's being promised here. This isn't just about feeling a little more relaxed. The internet claim is that this specific breathing pattern can literally rewire your brain. The story goes that this practice, with supposed 5,000-year-old Tibetan roots, can trigger a massive surge in something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It helps you grow new neurons, strengthens the ones you have, and is vital for learning, memory, and mood. Low BDNF is linked to everything from depression and anxiety to serious neurodegenerative diseases. So the idea that a simple breathing exercise could boost it by 300%, that's astounding. But here's the thing. When you dig into the hard science from places like Stanford University, you can't find a single, peer-reviewed study that says, yes, the Tibetan 555 protocol boosts BDNF by 300%. That direct link just isn't there. So, is it all a myth? Not quite. And this is where it gets really interesting. What researchers have found is that how you breathe has a direct and incredibly powerful influence on your brain and body. This isn't philosophy, it's physiology. Deep in our brainstem, a tiny cluster of neurons that neurobiologist Dr. Jack Feldman at UCLA discovered was named the Prebotzinger complex. You can think of it as the pacemaker for your breath. For a long time, scientists thought its only job was to, well, make us breathe. But new research shows it's connected to the parts of our brain that control arousal, attention, anxiety, and calm. This is the key. Your breath isn't just along for the ride, it's the driver. When you breathe quickly and shallowly, that Prebotzinger complex sends alarm signals to your brain, making you feel anxious and stressed. But when you consciously slow your breath down, you're essentially hijacking the system for good. You're sending a new message. This brings us to a landmark study from Stanford. Researchers led by Dr. David Spiegel and Dr. Andrew Huberman compared a few different 5-minute breathing exercises against mindfulness meditation. They found that while all practices helped, the breathwork groups showed way bigger improvements in mood and anxiety reduction. And one technique, in particular, was the STAR, cyclic sighing, which is all about a long, slow exhale. It was the most effective at boosting mood and calming the body down. People who did it for just 5 minutes a day felt significantly better, and the good feelings lasted all day. So why does this work? It all comes down to one nerve, the vagus nerve. This thing is an information superhighway running from your brain to your gut, connecting to your heart, lungs, and almost every major organ. It's the main player in your rest and digest system, the body's natural off switch for the fight or flight stress response. And here's the secret: the vagus nerve gets a powerful activation signal during a long exhale. When you deliberately breathe out longer than you breathe in, you are manually flipping the switch from high alert to calm and safe. It's not a placebo, it's a direct, mechanical way to use your body's built-in anti-anxiety network. Now, let's go back to that wild 300% BDNF claim. While that number isn't verified for this breathing pattern, the basic idea isn't totally out of left field. We know that vagus nerve stimulation is being looked at for its ability to promote neuroplasticity, the brain's power to rewire itself. Some studies suggest that activating the vagus nerve can, in fact, lead to the release of brain-supporting neurochemicals like BDNF. And we absolutely know that controlled breathing can reduce the feeling of chronic pain, likely by calming the anxiety that makes pain worse and changing how the brain processes pain signals. So while the ancient Tibetans might not have used words like neuroscience, they clearly understood the mechanism. They knew that by controlling the breath, they could control their inner state. The 555 protocol is basically a modern distillation of that wisdom. This is where it all becomes real. The protocol I followed is incredibly simple, but the little details seem to matter. It's called 555 for a 5-second inhale, a 5-second hold, and a 5-second exhale. Here's exactly how I did it. First, get comfortable. Sit in a chair with your feet on the floor or cross-legged on the ground. The main thing is to keep your spine pretty straight but not stiff. Now, the inhale. You're going to breathe in slowly and steadily through your nose for a 5-second count. While you do this, there's a little trick: gently press the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, right behind your front teeth. This is said to help with focus and airflow, but mostly it just gives your mind a simple anchor point. Second, the hold. After you've inhaled fully but comfortably, you just hold it for 5 seconds, keeping your tongue in place. This isn't about proving you can hold your breath, it's to let oxygen saturate your blood and to let carbon dioxide levels rise just a tiny bit. That slight rise in CO2 is a powerful signal that helps calm you down and improves oxygen delivery to the brain. Third, the exhale. This is the most important part. For 5 seconds, you exhale slowly and gently out of your mouth. As you start to breathe out, relax your jaw and let your tongue drop away from the roof of your mouth. I imagined every bit of tension in my body just melting away and flowing out with my breath. This long, controlled exhale is what really gets the vagus nerve going and shifts you into that calm, rest and digest state. That whole cycle, inhale 5, hold 5, exhale 5, is one round. The goal is to do this for 5 minutes straight. I did it twice a day, once in the morning right after waking up, and once in the evening before bed. The claims say you might feel a little tingling or warmth after a few rounds, a sign of changes in blood flow. They say that after a few minutes, your brain starts to shift into a deeply relaxed theta brainwave state. The big promise was that I'd feel a real shift in my baseline mood within 48 hours. That's what I was here to find out. Day 1 and 2, the skeptic and the static. The first morning felt absurd. I sat on the edge of my bed, my phone timer set for 5 minutes, and started. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, and my mind was already gone. Asterisk, did I reply to that email? What's for dinner? Hold, 1, 2, 3. I could feel my own heart beating too fast, fighting against the slow count. Exhale, the release felt stiff, not relaxing. My shoulders were hunched up around my ears. Those 5 minutes dragged on forever. My brain was a frantic mess. Every time I focused on my breath, a new thought would just careen through my head. It wasn't calming at all. It was a frustrating, face-to-face confrontation with how incredibly loud it is inside my own head. The evening was no better. I finished the 5 minutes feeling more wound up than when I started. Day 2 was more of the same. That 48-hour promise of noticeable changes was ticking down, and I was feeling nothing but skeptical. I was doing the counts, pressing my tongue to my palate, all of it. But inside, it was still chaos. Then, on the evening of day 2, something happened. About 4 minutes in, for just 2 or 3 breaths, the noise stopped. Just silence. There was no bliss, no cosmic insight, just a brief, stunning absence of chatter. Of course, the second I noticed it, the noise came crashing back. But it had happened. A crack in the static. Day 3, 4 and 5, the turning point. Day 3 is when I felt it click. During the morning session, that window of silence opened up again, but this time it lasted for maybe a whole minute. I could actually feel my shoulders dropping on the exhale. The muscles in my jaw unclenched. It wasn't just an idea, it was a real, physical release. Later that day, something else happened. I was stuck in traffic, which normally makes my blood boil. I felt the usual frustration creeping in, my hands tightening on the wheel. And then, without even thinking about it, I took a slow, deep breath and let it out. And the frustration just fizzled. It didn't disappear, but its grip on me loosened. It was like turning the volume down on an annoying song. This was the first sign that the practice was working outside of the 5-minute sessions. By days 4 and 5, the sessions had completely transformed. They weren't a chore anymore. I actually started looking forward to them. The mental chaos still showed up at the start, but it settled down much faster. I started feeling that warmth and tingling people talked about, a gentle wave of calm that started in my chest and spread through my body. My sleep got better, too. I'm usually a restless sleeper, my mind racing all night. But on these nights, I fell asleep faster and woke up feeling genuinely rested in a way I hadn't in months. It made perfect sense. By deliberately calming my nervous system right before bed, I was giving my body and brain the all-clear to power down and repair. Day 6 and 7, the new baseline. By the last 2 days, the practice felt like a part of me. The 5 minutes flew by. The silence was no longer a brief visitor, it was the main event. My mind still wandered, but the thoughts didn't feel so sticky. They'd pop up and just drift away without dragging me along with them. But the biggest change was happening outside the practice. That constant, low-level anxiety I had just accepted as part of my personality. It was so much quieter. It wasn't gone, but it was no longer the background music to my entire life. I felt clearer, more stable. The chronic tension I've held in my neck and shoulders for years felt looser. I didn't have to tell my shoulders to relax, they just were. One of the claims was about interrupting chronic pain. I have a nagging ache in my lower back that always flares up with stress. I realized on day 7 that I hadn't even thought about it for the last 2 days. It wasn't a magic cure, but by lowering my overall stress and tension, I had clearly lowered the inflammation and pain signals. It backed up the research suggesting breathwork can change how we perceive pain. The 7-day experiment was over, but I wasn't going to stop. It felt like my default setting had been switched from anxious and scattered to calm and centered. And that's the incredible part. This isn't something you have to buy. It's not a supplement or some gadget. It's a skill. A tool you already have, and you can learn how to use it in minutes. I honestly believe this is one of the most powerful and accessible tools we have for our mental health, and the science is finally explaining why. So, here's my challenge to you. Just try it. 5 minutes, twice a day, for 7 days. Then come back here and share what happened in the comments. Did your mind get quieter? Did you sleep better? Did you notice any change in your stress or physical pain? Your story might just be the proof someone else needs to give it a shot. Conclusion. So, after 7 days, did this supposedly ancient ritual rewire my brain? I can't stick my head in an fMRI to check if my BDNF levels shot up by 300%, but I can tell you this, it feels like my brain has been rewired. The frantic, anxious pathways that used to be my brain's default setting now feel quieter. The paths to calm and clarity, once overgrown and hard to find, now feel clear and easy to walk. The promise of a noticeable change in 48 hours was true for me, just not in the way I expected. It wasn't a lightning bolt from the heavens, it was more like a quiet sunrise. The first shift was tiny, a fleeting moment of peace that grew day by day until it settled into a new, more stable baseline. The mental chatter isn't gone, but its volume is turned way down. The chronic tension hasn't vanished, but it no longer runs the show. What this journey really taught me is that the legends and the neuroscience are telling the same story, just in different languages. Whether you call it stimulating the vagus nerve or awakening an inner fire, the result is the same. When you take conscious control of your breath, you gain conscious control over your mind and your mood. This isn't about becoming a monk or living in a permanent state of bliss. It's about having a tool. It's about knowing that when life gets overwhelming, when anxiety rises, when pain flares up, you have a physical switch you can flip. You can exhale, and in that long, slow breath out, you can tell your body and your mind that you are safe. That you are in control. And that simple act, practiced over and over, can change everything.